The Americans are buying fertilizers, a couple of $1 billion worth of fertilizers from Russia, which is they're using in their agriculture, and they're growing these subsidized grains they're selling to us. So how is it that Mr. Trump can claim that our dollars are fueling Russia's war machine in Ukraine, but his dollars are not? I mean, what logic is this? There are double standards and hypocrisies at every stage of this. China is buying more, but they get a 90-day negotiating window, which we don't. European Union is getting more, they're not even...
They buy Russian gas, yeah.
So, I mean, there's something really very unpleasantly uneven, unfair and unjust about what happened here. I don't know whether it's our miscalculation or whether Mr. Trump in his negotiating zeal has gone farther than his own government intended to go. I don't know. We'll find out. Because right now there is a process going on. That process is not taking place at Mr. Trump's level. He's not sitting at the negotiating table. He's making these noises and putting pressure on India. But the relationship is being conducted at a working level. We have our negotiators from the Commerce Ministry. They have their people from the Trade Negotiators Office. These talks will go on, and I'm not urging anyone to overreact to this point. But as I said, even if you don't take him literally, you have to take him seriously, because if on 27th of August, our goods are 50% in China's, Pakistan's, Vietnam's, Indonesia's, Bangladesh's are all 20 or lower. China's 30, but the others are all 20 or lower, 19, 15 and so on. Why would any American want to buy our goods? You'll be very honest. The bottom will drop out of many of our exports in the American market, and we'll have to find other markets. We may as well start looking now. I want to make it very, very clear that even 25 put us at a disadvantage, because many countries are 15 to 20, 15 to 19. So if we are at 25, our goods would have to be priced in such a way that that 6% differential can be made up. If we can't do that, then in any case we are at a disadvantage at 25. At 50, we are just out of the race. We're not even going to be a player in their market. Now, there are other ways. We've got a free trade agreement with the UK.
Yes.
99% of our goods will go duty-free to the UK. Maybe we should set up a thriving business with some good Indian entrepreneur in the UK who will buy lots and lots of Indian goods, repackage them as made in UK and ship them to America.
So
that might be a solution.
I
don't know, but I'm just saying there are ways in which others will get around it. This is, by the way, what many in Dubai are doing, selling Indian goods to Pakistan, which the Pakistanis won't import if it says made in India. So they're importing from India to Dubai, packaging them and sending them off to Pakistan as made in the UAE. We might do that to the Americans if they want it. They'll pay more than they would otherwise pay if they got it directly. But at least we'll do our exports under duty-free arrangements.
You've worked there substantially. You've obviously seen the American style of diplomacy. What do you think? What do you think has gone wrong? Why is Trump angry with us?
I can't imagine he's angry with us. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there may be...
He's bullying us.
Yeah, I mean, his style is that way. I don't think that's particularly specific to us. You saw how he treated Mr. Zelensky not too long ago. He has a certain style, which in all fairness is unusual to say the least, and idiosyncratic to put it mildly. There is no other world leader who in a public diplomatic sort of statement would say such undiplomatic things than him. But he does it, and now we have to learn to find our own way of coping with it. My serious view is that there may be some very petty individual considerations involved there that you and I may not be able to fully relate to. I mean, for example, perhaps when he made that claim about having brought peace to India and Pakistan, perhaps instead of flatly saying he never called us and we didn't, he didn't make
the Prime Minister saying no to it is something which upset him?
I don't think the Prime Minister was wrong in laying the facts out.
No, but do you think that upset him?
But I'm saying perhaps one thing we could have said is, we didn't need persuading Mr. President, but if you persuaded the Pakistanis, thank you very much for doing a favor to the world. Something like that. I mean, he wants flattery. And it's possible that we have not been sufficiently flattering in our approach to him. The Pakistanis have played that game, as you've seen, by nominating him for a Nobel Peace Prize and so on. So it's possible that he did call the Pakistanis, he did press them. And that America told the Pakistanis, we don't want you escalating this, we don't want you reacting. Because you remember, the war ended essentially with our blasting their 11 air bases. And the next morning they called us and said, let's end this thing. Maybe after we hit the air bases, maybe the Pakistanis were contemplating a very irresponsible reaction. And maybe the Americans told the Pakistanis, don't do this. And maybe that's why Mr. Trump thinks he stopped the war, because if he hadn't pressed the Pakistanis, maybe they would have attacked. I'm just guessing. You and I are not privy, and nobody in India is privy to the conversation
feels that a
with the
Nobel
Americans and
Prize
the
is
Pakistan.
slipping out. Is that the thing? I'm going to ask you two quick questions because I know you're in a tearing hurry. The fact is that we have also reached out to other countries, like the Brazilian president calling up the Prime Minister. Tough messaging that we are not going to opt out of the BRICS. Russian oil, Ajit Doval is there. Mr. Putin is supposed to come here next year. Prime Minister, of course, is going ahead with his pre-scheduled SCO summit. You think these are very strong messaging which is going in from our country, our government, to Donald Trump?
Look, we have made it very clear that we have options. And I think the Americans should understand that. They can't take us for granted and kick us around. We're not a supplicant state. We are a country with our own pride, our own self-respect, but also our own place in the world. We are the largest country, population-wise. We are the fourth largest in terms of dollar terms of the economy, third largest in purchasing power parity. We are a country to be reckoned with. People are interested in our market. People are interested in our goods. I don't see that we need to feel in any way so hopelessly vulnerable that we have to surrender on everything. At the same time, I believe in good negotiation. There's always give and take. There are some points you can give. I'm not saying we just have to stick here and say our way or the highway, but nor can they say our way or the highway. There has to be give and take. There has to be mutual respect. And on that basis only can we advance. If it doesn't work, yes, we have options. We not only have sent the signal of the Prime Minister announcing a visit to Beijing at the end of the month, which was, as you know, announced in the wake of this kind of behavior. But on top of that, I think Defense Minister Rajnath Singh has cancelled his visit to the US, which would have actually set the seal on some major American arms purchases. I think we are going to give the Americans a message. Don't think that there won't be a price to pay, that you can just kick us and we'll just take it lying down and come begging to you. You know, we are not Ukraine. I mean, we are not some small country. I'm sorry. If this happens, it doesn't matter. We'll find some other place we can buy missiles from.
And you don't think the Prime Minister should call him up at all?
Look, what they're doing at that level between heads of state and government is their business. I'm not the one to advise on that. All I can say is at the governmental level, there is a process, and that process is going on. We must conduct that process. Our negotiators must act with courage as well as confidence, knowing that the nation has their back, that where they can make concessions, the nation will understand. Where they cannot make concessions, the nation will back them if we have to walk away.
Okay, finally, many people in the opposition parties are criticizing and calling it a failed foreign policy or a faulty foreign policy. Would you agree with that?
Look, I mean, there are very many things that people can say. Right now, I'm more focused on the fact that we have, let's face it, a crisis facing us. We are in a situation at the moment when a market that accounts for about $90 billion of exports for India is suddenly going to be severely depleted in 3 weeks' time, barring some sort of miraculous progress, which we hope is happening, but we don't know is happening. These negotiations are going on, understandably, behind closed doors. Now, I feel that the time at this stage is to back our negotiators to do a good job. By the way, the negotiators are part of the Commerce Ministry, not even the Foreign Ministry. So, I mean, let's understand that there are processes here. Let's see what comes out of all this before we come to any judgments. In my own view, India must know where it stands. We must be anchored in our own certitudes. We will go this far and no further. We will accept this and not that. We will have these red lines and we will have that flexibility. That kind of approach is what a self-respecting nation should have. I believe that's the kind of mandate with which our negotiators have gone. I hope so. And I certainly hope they will conduct themselves in a way that Indians can be proud of whatever comes out of the process, including possibly a failure. But they should go now and negotiate as Indians, as proud, self-respecting Indians.
Thank you very much for speaking to CNN News 18. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Balu.
Well, that was the big story that we've been tracking here all through the day, all through the week, in fact. The impact that India is going to feel and the impact that the United States is going to feel about the tariff or the tariff tyranny or a tantrum that Donald Trump seems to be throwing. We'll keep a track of what transpires there, but for now, we are shifting focus to the other big story that we've been tracking here on CNN News 18, and that's to do with the free run that Khalistani elements seem to be getting in Canada. Kapil Sharma's cafe has been targeted for a second time within a month. The first attack came in July. The second attack happened yesterday. 6 bullet holes were found in the shattered windows of the comedian's cafe in Surrey. A suspected Molotov cocktail was discovered outside. Fortunately, no one was injured, although there was staff that was present inside when the attack took place. Remember, the first attack had occurred shortly after the cafe had opened. There were no arrests that have been made in that case either, and now we see a second such instance. Police are reviewing the CCTV footage, witness statements and an unverified video that's been circulating online. A gangster group linked to the Bishnoi gang has claimed responsibility, but the authenticity is under probe. Meanwhile, intelligence agency sources here in India reveal that there is a rising nexus between pro-Khalistani groups and organized crime syndicates like that of Lawrence Bishnoi in Canada. The increasing focus is on property damage and on intimidation.
मैं हरी बॉक्सर लॉरेंस बिश्नोई गैंग से ये जो कपिल शर्मा पे पहले और अब ये जो फायरिंग हुई है ये इसलिए हुई है इसने सलमान खान को उद्घाटन पे बुलाया था नेटफ्लिक्स के शो पे और अगली बार जो भी डायरेक्टर प्रोड्यूसर कलाकार इनको सारों को वार्निंग नहीं देंगे अब सीधी AK-47 ही चलेगी इनकी छाती पे और मुंबई में ये वार्निंग है सभी को छोटे मोटे कलाकारों को छोटे मोटे प्रोड्यूसरों को सभी को अब हम मुंबई का माहौल इतना खराब कर देंगे कि तुम लोगों ने सोचा भी नहीं होगा तुम्हारी जिंदगी में ठीक है अगर इसके साथ किसी ने भी काम किया चाहे कोई छोटा मोटा कलाकार हो छोटा मोटा डायरेक्टर प्रोड्यूसर हो हम किसी को भी नहीं छोड़ेंगे हम मार देंगे उसको किसी भी हद तक जाना पड़ेगा हमारे को उसको मारने के लिए हम उसको मार देंगे ठीक है अगर सलमान खान के साथ किसी ने काम किया तो वो खुद की मौत का जिम्मेदार खुद होगा जय श्री राम जय बलकारी
For second time in a month is where attacks have taken place. Rounds of bullets were fired at Kapil Sharma's Caps Cafe. We are here right outside Kapil Sharma's residence at Andheri. However, so far Kapil Sharma has not really reacted to any of this incident. Of course, reports have spoken about how Kapil Sharma met the officials from Study Police at his Caps Cafe just a week back. But however, so far he's not responded to this. Of course, investigation is on in this very incident. Last month, there were 10 rounds of bullets that were fired at Kapil Sharma's Caps Cafe. This time, it's been 6 rounds. The incident took place around 4:35 a.m. just a day back. However, when we speak of this instance, there was an unclaimed post which claimed responsibility for this very attack that has taken place, attributing it to the Lawrence Bishnoi gang. However, the verification of this post is yet to be done by authorities. When it comes to this very post pertaining to Lawrence Bishnoi, there are several theories that are being investigated by the cops. One particularly being the closeness of Kapil Sharma to Salman Khan. We've seen how before this as well, Salman Khan as well as his friends have been under the radar of Lawrence Bishnoi gang, including Baba Siddiqui. But amidst all of this, the fact that Kapil Sharma is also close to Salman Khan is also under the radar because Lawrence Bishnoi gang has also been targeting Salman Khan time and again, as was the case with his friends. Another investigation angle by the cops is the name of Shubham Lonkar. He's one of the key accused in Baba Siddiqui case. Now, clearly Baba Siddiqui's death was linked to the Lawrence Bishnoi gang. Responsibility was taken by them. However, one of the key accused, Shubham Lonkar, his name mentions in the post, the unverified post that is out on social media. The third angle is the fact that Lawrence Bishnoi gang has time and again been targeting people from the entertainment industry, people from the Bollywood circles, trying to extort money. The fourth angle is the whole D-gang involvement. How D-gang had a clout in Mumbai say around 2 decades back. It's a similar cloud that Lawrence Bishnoi is trying to create right here. One of the other important angle is that Lawrence Bishnoi gang has not really been happy with one of the comments made by Kapil Sharma on his show pertaining to Sikh community, which is where time and again threats were issued to him.
So there are verbal threats that have been issued. There are physical assaults and attacks that are taking place on Indian businesses, on Indian nationals in different parts of Canada. And that has now brought the focus on whether or not there is a growing nexus between these pro-Khalistani extremist groups and organized crime syndicates, and whether or not there is a will to act against these elements. Here's what intel sources have told CNN News 18, that officials say that outfits such as the Babbar Khalsa International and the Khalistan Tiger Force seem to be behind these increasing attacks on Indian nationals in different parts of Canada. These K groups are increasingly relying on gangsters like Lawrence Bishnoi, like Goldie Brar and Arjadallah to execute their operations. They're using them as proxies, is what we're given to understand. This is the kind of network that we are seeing as far as the organized crime syndicate goes. Goldie Brar, Lawrence Bishnoi, Arzdala are those that are targeting these Indo-Canadian businesses and figures there. It started with Ontario, then we saw such instances, especially with Kapil Sharma's cafe in Surrey as well, where the second attack yesterday took place within a span of just 4 weeks. The strategy, sources say, revolves around targeted shootings, threats and extortion that's aimed at these high-profile Indo-Canadians. The goal, we believe, is of establishing dominance and of spreading fear within the community. That seems to be the primary intent, and these are the targets that we are looking at of how there seems to be an organized syndicate that seems to be running in different parts of Canada. Many believe that there is some sort of overt or covert help from the ISI as well for the Khalistani extremist groups to further their anti-India agenda on foreign soil in countries like Canada. Siddhant now joins us, getting us more details on this. Siddhant, this syndicate or these gangsters that we are seeing running amok in different parts of Canada, it looks like there is very little political will, because yesterday it was a second attack on Caps Cafe. There has been no action yet, even in the first one.
Well, that's right, Poonam. Look, it's a very dirty nexus, Poonam, perhaps, and this is something which Indian government have time and again have been, raising with the Canadian authorities, and this has been going on from a very, very long time, where the K groups, are in connivance with the gangsters here in Punjab, and perhaps they call shots, they extort money, and this has been going on for a very, very long time. Now, in fact, the locals are telling us that it could be Lawrence Bishnoi, Arsh Dalla, or Goldie Brar. At the same time, what Manoj Gupta is reporting is that the K groups are, Babbar Khalsa and others, are using these elements to open fire at Kapil Sharma's cafe. In fact, Poonam, there is this syndicate which has been going on, which is running in British Columbia, where they extort money from businessmen, celebrities, and many people, affluent people in British Columbia. There have been multiple such cases which have come to the light. In fact, we have also reported several cases where people were attacked when extortion money was not given, those kind of cases. So this particular incident, again, a cafe being attacked which belongs to Kapil Sharma, perhaps could be a work of some gang, some local gang. And because last time around police couldn't identify the perpetrators, they are still roaming scot-free. Perhaps it could be them again, or maybe a new gang. We really don't know. But all we know from the Surrey police right now is that his cafe was attacked and investigation is going on. Nothing beyond that.
Right. Siddhant, do stay on with us, because we want to tell our viewers a little bit deeper of what this strategy seems to be. This is what we've gathered from our intelligence sources here in India. This strategy revolves around targeted shootings, threats, extortion and calls that are aimed at high-profile Canadians, Indo-Canadians, with an aim to spread this kind of fear in the community. Here's what has happened recently. The Caps Cafe in Surrey in British Columbia. Yesterday, we saw a second attack where there were bullet holes, there were shattered windows that were witnessed. The first attack happened in July. No action has been taken. Harjeet Singh Laddi, linked to the Babbar Khalsa International, had earlier claimed responsibility for that attack. In May 2025, in Brampton in Ontario, 3 Indo-Canadians allegedly fired shots inside a vacant business while demanding extortion money. The finding was that there has been patterns of this gang activity that has been seen, but again, no action taken. Then in Fraser Valley, back in 2023, extortion letters demanding protection money were circulated among South Asian businesses that traced back to Indian origin gangs. So who exactly is running this gang sitting here in India, unleashing this kind of mayhem, these Khalistani extremist groups that seem to be targeting Indo-Canadian businesses, Indian nationals in Canada? That is something that is under the lens. Siddhant, my colleague, continues to be with us, getting us more perspective on this. Siddhant, this is not just the incident at Caps Cafe, isn't it? Several other instances in the past as well. Very little in terms of action has been seen.
And also, usually the Sikh separatists blame Indian gangsters. Indian gangsters at times take credit, but they don't come in front, etc., etc. We have seen in the past also. But there is one example which I would like to give to our viewers. Swaminarayan Temple's president was attacked, Poonam, maybe a year back. At that point in time also, it was said that this is a work of Indian side. Indian gangsters, the transnational gangs working in Canada. But actually, it was the work of two groups. They were threatening him. They were trying to extort money from.
Well, we'll be continuing to track that story. Just taking a quick interlude from what Poonam was discussing just a short while ago. We are joined by the MD and CEO of the National Stock Exchange of India, Ashish Kumar Chauhan, the NSE. Mr. Chauhan, thank you very much for speaking to us here on CNN News 18 and to me. We're seeing, obviously, the fallout of what now seems to be an entrenched face-off between India and the United States over what many people believe is Trump's tariff tyranny. Now, Mr. Chauhan, first of all, how are the markets reacting to this? We are seeing volatility, but it is very well managed. In certain sectors, are those more vulnerable? Why is it that we haven't seen the kind of mayhem we saw in America, for instance, on Wall Street when Trump announced tariffs?
No, in a way, you are right that there is expectations vis-a-vis reality. See, whenever a news comes, first time, like when COVID came first time, markets went down by 40%. But after that new news of COVID, nothing much happened, right? Similarly, when Mr. Trump took over in late January and he started making noise, there was an expectation that, and he started making noise, that's where the markets reacted a lot. But later on, whatever he says is largely priced. Whatever is not priced is where you see the impact. And today, you have seen India going down 1%, which is what, in some ways, you can say the impact of the Trump tariff. But he's also doing a lot of to and fro. He does something and then he takes it back and then does something else. And the other part is that it's not doing only for India. Because we are the affected party, we think he's doing it with India, but he's actually playing this with everyone else. I mean, he's not what I call, he's troubling everyone equally or slightly, differently, but broadly on the same front, whether it's EU or Japan or Korea, which have been their staunchest allies, in fact, in some ways subordinates for so many years, almost 70, 80 years, and they have been treated badly, and that's where, in some ways, that's his way of doing things. He does trash talks, but overall, he's a person in search of a deal, right?
Right.
So he's trying to do this for all his deals, and that's what we need to, and market understands this.
Well,
First
of course,
time
we
comes,
have about 21.
Next time,
yes, we have 3 weeks in which to arrive at some sort of a deal. India has already landed a first strike by deciding to, at some level or the other, not advance with some of the arms-related transactions with the United States. You might have just seen that we broke that story just a short while back. It was reported by Reuters. But I just want to bring you in on this because I want you to explain to the viewer which sectors on the stock markets are perhaps more exposed to these tariffs. Which are these areas?
See, in a way, if you look at it, India's total exports basket to US is in some ways largely dependent on services, which is not in the play. So all the IT companies and all the services we provide, BPOs and other things, they are not in the play. So in some ways, what we do as merchandise exports are the only thing that are in play. The GCCs, which is becoming a very large set of employers, almost 2,500 to 3,000 large setups of all the US companies and European companies setting up their base in India to do intellectual work. Again, that's not in the play because that's only a salary. So these two things which have been actually ensuring that India grows over the last 30 years are both not in the play. There is no talk of tariffs on that. And there is one reason because we don't discuss. The services is actually US is better and US is exporting on net basis. So that's why he's not touching tariffs. And that's why my understanding is today is not touching India's services part. Now coming to the merchandise, currently the crude part, crude oil and its derivatives, that's the petrol and diesel and all, are currently not in that. And similarly, pharmaceuticals are not in that. That doesn't mean tomorrow it may not come. But broadly, large part of our export market is not covered in that. But that's done by larger players, including electronics with the iPhone and all. But the smaller ones, the SMEs and medium companies, including textiles and other things, they get affected if this 50% comes into play. But even at 25%, a lot of exporters have told me that it's going to be very tough. Although the supply chains are not easy to break, it will take some time, but finally this will have an impact of quite substantial amounts on the job creation and other things. And that's what we were expecting in terms of going forward with this kind of bilaterals, and we were hoping that the bilaterals with US goes better than other countries, but currently we are in a situation which is slightly difficult. I'm sure our our government will resolve it in some ways with US, which is win-win for both.
What would be a win-win? What would be a win-win situation for the stock markets? Let me ask you that directly. And also, foreign institution investors often react swiftly in scenarios like this when there is the expectation of a trade shock. Are you seeing net FII outflows intensify since the tariff announcement, and how might this impact NSE liquidity and depth in the near term?
In fact, the FIIs have, or what we call now FPIs, have been particularly sanguine about Indian markets. The outflow post announcement, even from March, April onwards, has not been that great. And that's what is also surprised, but also the fact that US dollar itself is losing value. It's almost gone down by 10% compared to the other markets, and people feel that the first quarter of US after the announcement of tariffs was actually about the inventory being sold, the old inventories being sort of capped and sold. The actual inflation will start coming in, hitting US markets probably this quarter onwards, when the new tariffs actually start getting applied to new material which comes into US. And so there are many imponderables, and most people who invest in India invest in high-tech companies, pharmaceuticals and other things, which are actually very, very good in terms of protecting their stuff, but also that services are not even in the play. So broadly speaking, some portion is about the India play, which is India's own domestic consumption, e-commerce and all, which is doing very well. The services are going to actually increase because of the AI and other things in India. The jobs and number of jobs are going to increase, and similarly GCCs are going to create more jobs. So overall, we do not see that exodus which people predict or used to predict in earlier days, because this is a different situation. Very specific sectors might get affected, and if we are able to create a framework where we are comparable with other similar competition or better in terms of the manpower oriented activities or manufacturing, which we want to now sort of claim.
So what you're saying, Mr. Chauhan, net, what you're saying is that there's not going to be a mass FDI outflow. That's what you're saying, and that's very reassuring. That's what you're saying, right?
We have not seen any, we have not seen that type of thing.
So let me ask you, because you touched upon a win-win deal. So in your view, what role should India's policy response, whether through counter tariffs, trade diversification or diplomatic channels, play in restoring market confidence? What are you looking at? Today we've hit back by saying that, look, we're not going to procure certain defense systems from the United States. What else are you looking at?
For me, those are transactional issues, and US is negotiating on transaction basis rather than relationship basis, and we have to deal with that attitude, that way of doing things, that framework of US, which was literally the ruler of the world, unipolar ruler, is now coming under multipolar framework, and they are feeling some sort of a threat in their hegemony, if you say. And that's where, for me, we have to keep all this in account, take into account, and also the fact that if little give and take, finally we need to solve this, because China clearly is exporting, literally exporting everything that they have now $1.2 trillion of customs surplus and $2 trillion of manufacturing surplus as per the new numbers. And so they are literally increasing their exports. In that context, we need markets which are able to absorb our services, but also our goods compared to China. And that's where we need to somehow solve this kind of, whatever way we can do that in a more amicable way, I would say we should go ahead.
So diversification is the need of the hour, whether it is market diversification for our exports or product diversification to feed exports. Thank you, Mr. Chauhan. This has been enlightening. Thank you very much for speaking to us. We leave it at this, viewers. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval met Russia's Security Council Secretary in Moscow to boost their special and privileged strategic partnership. Discussions centered on deepening bilateral ties, security cooperation and preparations for President Putin's upcoming visit to India. Doval also met President Putin at the Kremlin. Despite global tensions, including US tariffs on India over Russian oil imports, both nations are committed to advancing their time-tested relationship.
You have very rightly mentioned, Excellency, that we have got a very special relationship, a long relationship, and we highly value our strategic partnership. We have had high-level engagements, and these high-level engagements have contributed very substantially. We are very excited and delighted to learn about the visit of His Excellency the President of Russia, President Putin, to India. I think that the dates are almost finalized now. The more important thing is this, that is, these summit meetings have always been the watershed points.
So reiteration coming in there, Akansha, from India and Russia. We've seen statements from Brazil. We've also seen statements from China. What more can be expected in days to come?
Absolutely. In fact, the NSA has put this into perspective for us that, in such an unpredictable economic environment, some things happen as watershed moments. And perhaps what India and the global south are looking at is a watershed moment, especially when it comes to our economic history. Remember, India was anticipating this. This is extremely ironical because if one were to compare this with Donald Trump's previous administration, it was Donald Trump who increased the bilateral trade with New Delhi, but we've seen that slump because perhaps he no longer sees India as a counterbalance to China. He rather sees India as a threat as massive as China. But remember, India has already started diversifying. In July, as latest as July, Shivani, the Niti Aayog has proposed that they will ease Chinese FDI, which means that there will be investment coming into India, and they've marked it very smartly at 24%, which means that if Chinese investment comes into Indian firms, it will remain at 24%. That also abstains the Chinese investment from gaining majority control of Indian firms, yet will ensure that the money comes in from Beijing into New Delhi. Having said that, there are also lessons that New Delhi can learn at the moment. In April, in fact, to be precise, on 4th of April, MOFCOM and China's customs had imposed controls on its export of rare earth minerals. That's which brought Washington down to its knees, and that's when they came to Stockholm. The negotiations happened. As a result, China has a reprieve of 90 days. What's equally interesting is that what's happening globally as far as these tariffs are concerned is also indicating the policy paralysis within the WTO dispute system. So WTO is the body where you can go for trade disputes and these settlements can happen, and that's not currently really happening. WTO is unable to play its roles. So now that leaves all of these countries and groupings like the BRICS primarily. SCO, as we all know, is a grouping meant more for security concerns, but you can expect that when Prime Minister Modi will be in China, there will be talks, there will be a realignment and joining of hands. In fact, we are already seeing the rhetoric come from China's global state mouthpiece, that is Global Times, which is saying that Western media is in fact attacking India and China building unhealthy competition which really doesn't exist. Both the economies can aid each other in ensuring that Asia thrives, the world thrives by trading with Beijing and New Delhi.
Thank you, Akansha, for joining us. We'll, of course, keep a very close watch on all of these developments.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval met Russia's Security Council Secretary in Moscow to boost their special and privileged strategic partnership. Discussions centered on deepening bilateral ties, security cooperation and preparations for President Putin's upcoming visit to India. Doval also met President Putin at the Kremlin. Despite global tensions, including US tariffs on India over Russian oil imports, both nations are committed to advancing their time-tested relationship.
You have very rightly mentioned, Excellency, that we have got a very special relationship, a long relationship, and we highly value our strategic partnership. We have had high-level engagements, and these high-level engagements have contributed very substantially. We are very excited and delighted to
Good evening, you're watching Nation at 5 with me, Poonam Burde. The story we're tracking at this hour is the fight between Rahul Gandhi and the Congress versus the Election Commission. The poll body today strongly rejected Leader of Opposition Rahul Gandhi's voter fraud allegations made during the India bloc meeting, which he reiterated today at the Congress's rally in Karnataka. He called, the EC in fact, called his analysis absurd. They challenged Rahul Gandhi to either file a formal complaint under oath or apologize to the nation for spreading misleading information. Rahul Gandhi had cited a survey from Karnataka highlighting 6 alleged irregularities in voter rolls. He claimed there were duplicate voters appearing multiple times, voters registered in multiple states, and that there were fake addresses. The Election Commission, first of the state of Karnataka and then the Central Election Commission, both strongly rejected the claims that were being made by the Congress party and Rahul Gandhi, also asking why they were using that same voter list for conducting their caste census in the state if they had no belief in it. Rahul Gandhi, meanwhile, responded to the Election Commission, claiming that he does not need to take oaths or make any claims under an affidavit because he's a public representative and everything that he says publicly is a matter of truth. The BJP, meanwhile, attacked Rahul Gandhi and the Congress party in equal measure. Home Minister Amit Shah lashed out at the opposition over the SIR row as well, accusing them of indulging in vote bank politics.
लोक सभा का चुनाव हुआ, उसके बाद महाराष्ट्र का चुनाव होता है। लोक सभा में हमारा गठबंधन महाराष्ट्र के चुनाव को जीतता है और फिर 4 महीने बाद बीजेपी महाराष्ट्र में विधानसभा जीतती है। हमने पता लगाया तो पता लगा कि 1 करोड़ नए वोटरों ने वोट किया विधानसभा में। 1 करोड़ नए लोग जिन्होंने लोकसभा में अपना वोट नहीं डाला था, जादू से ये विधानसभा में वोट डालने निकल आए और जहां भी ये नए वोटर आए वहां पर बीजेपी चुनाव जीती।
पूरे अखबार भरे पड़े हैं कि एसआईआर होना चाहिए या नहीं होना चाहिए। भैया घुसपैठिए को मतदाता सूची से निकालना चाहिए या नहीं निकालना चाहिए? चुनाव आयोग ने एसआईआर करना चाहिए या नहीं करना चाहिए? अरे मुझे बताए लालू प्रसाद जी, किसको बचाना चाहते हो? आज तक चुनाव आयोग ने जो पहली सूची बाहर करी, आपकी पार्टी ने एक भी ऑब्जेक्शन नहीं लिया, कांग्रेस पार्टी ने एक भी ऑब्जेक्शन नहीं लिया। और आप बचाना किसको चाहते हो? जो बांग्लादेश से आकर मेरे बिहार के युवाओं की नौकरी खा जाते हैं, उनको बचाना चाहते हो? घुसपैठियों को निकालना चाहिए या नहीं निकालना चाहिए? स्पष्ट संदेश दीजिए लालू एंड कंपनी को। घुसपैठियों के वोट चाहिए तो बिहार की जनता आपको स्वीकार नहीं करेगी। राहुल जी को भी कहना चाहता हूं, बंद करिए ये वोट बैंक की राजनीति। मतदाता शुद्धिकरण पहली बार नहीं हो रहा है। आपके परनाना जवाहरलाल नेहरू ने शुरू किया था और अंत में 2003 में हुआ, तब भी कोई विरोध नहीं था। अब आप चुनाव पे चुनाव हारते जाते हो, इसलिए पहले से ही बिहार चुनाव हारने का एक वजह लोगों को बता रहे हैं।
Arunima now joins us, getting us more perspective. Arunima, there are at least 3 state ECs that have come out and slammed Rahul Gandhi, claiming that he should go on the record and give proof if he has any proof of the claims that he is making. That hasn't ensured that Rahul Gandhi or Congress has backed down, though.
See, Congress is adamant, and Rahul Gandhi, even yesterday after the press conference when he was asked, because by then CEC of Karnataka had already reacted. So when Rahul Gandhi was asked whether you will give it on oath, he said, I'm a public representative. I'm saying this in public, so treat it as an oath. And that's the stance that the Congress party has also taken. They're repeatedly asking that instead of asking Rahul Gandhi to come on oath, why is EC not trying to address the anomalies and not answer the point-by-point queries that have been raised by Rahul Gandhi? So it appears it is a logjam between 2 constitutional positions, the leader of opposition and the Election Commission. The Election Commission has also been taking potshots at the opposition because none of the opposition parties have so far filed a single claim or objection in Bihar SIR Phase 2. So is Rahul Gandhi, is the opposition only going to make this a fight in the media, or are they going to use the resources available to them under the Representations of People's Act to address what they are calling anomalies? If indeed 1 crore new voters were added to the Maharashtra voters list, why was only one final appeal from the Congress party? Why did they not appeal then? Why has no election petition been filed in Karnataka, where Rahul Gandhi is now claiming massive vote chori? If you are only going to say this for headline grabbing and not utilize the legal avenues, then clearly the people, the voters are also going to question how sincere the opposition is.
Absolutely, and this is the basis, or this makes a case for why this revision or the SIR exercise needs to take place, starting from Bihar and the rest of the country, as well as what the Election Commission has also highlighted. Arunima, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that front. Now, Rahul Gandhi and the Congress have been talking about 2 different states, Maharashtra and Karnataka. But today, the Congress MP and leader of opposition was in Bengaluru. He was specifically talking about one Lok Sabha constituency that the Congress lost in central Bangalore, where he claims that the votes were rigged by the BJP. But CNN News 18 took stock of that particular constituency on ground, where Rahul Gandhi claimed that there was irregularity in the roll. He claimed that 68 voters allegedly registered at the address of a brewery, but the management of that brewery flatly denies. Listen in to what transpired when we went there to survey the plot or the spot in question.
Well, we are outside 153 Beer Street here in Mahadevapura constituency. This is in Whitefield area, and this is where the Congress says that 68 voters have been registered in this particular address. This is an address that has a brewery, and we spoke to the management of this brewery. They are saying that none of their workers have registered here as voters, and not just now, in the last few years as well. They've checked after the allegations by Congress, and nobody from this address who works at this brewery has registered here at this particular address as voters. This is the Congress's allegation that this is a commercial establishment, and roughly around 68 voters have registered from this particular address. At the same time, nearby properties too have vacant plots or just 1 or 2 houses, raising questions on how 68 people could have really registered here. One. Second, also what's the kind of effort that has gone in during the entire revision process. If this goes unnoticed, the fact that 68 people have been registered from an address that largely operates as a commercial entity. We are in Munireddy Garden. This is inside the Mahadevapura Assembly constituency, which is part of the larger Bengaluru North parliamentary constituency. And one of the houses where the Congress said that more than 80 people have been registered as voters is this house number 35. It's a very small, perhaps you can't even call it 1 BHK, it's just a living area, a small living area, which also has partition for a small kitchen and also a small bathroom. It's largely given out for people who work as laborers, security guards and other odd jobs that people do in and around the tech area. Remember, this is just off the outer ring road, which houses some of the most important IT companies, big IT companies in the city. The aspect here is the number of people who are living here. The Congress says 80 people have been registered as voters here, and this house was built roughly around 14-15 years back. We have with us the owner of the place, Mr. Jairam Reddy. I've shown him the voters list. He's also seen the voters list. He doesn't identify any of those 80 names that are there in the voters list that show house number 35 Munreddy Garden as their residential place on which they've managed to get their voter ID cards and register as voters here. And he says there is no way that in 15 years time 80 people would have come, stayed here and vacated. He says usually people stay here for a year or two and vacate, in which case highly unlikely that 80 people could have stayed here, even if you consider a period of roughly around 15 years.
The fight between the Congress and the Election Commission is only snowballing. We'll keep a track of that and much more here on Nation at 5. But for now, a quick break.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval met Russia's Security Council Secretary in Moscow to boost their special and privileged strategic partnership. Discussions centered on deepening bilateral ties, security cooperation and preparations for President Putin's upcoming visit to India. Doval also met President Putin at the Kremlin. Despite global tensions, including US tariffs on India over Russian oil imports, both nations are committed to advancing their time-tested relationship.
You have very rightly mentioned, Excellency, that we have got a very special relationship, a long relationship, and we highly value our strategic partnership. We have had high-level engagements, and these high-level engagements have contributed very substantially. We are very excited and delighted to learn about the visit of His Excellency the President of Russia, President Putin, to India. I think that the dates are almost finalized now. The more important thing is this, that is, these summit meetings have always been the watershed points.
So reiteration coming in there, Akansha, from India and Russia. We've seen statements from Brazil. We've also seen statements from China. What more can be expected in days to come?
Absolutely. In fact, the NSA has put this into perspective for us that, you know, in such an unpredictable economic environment, some things happen as watershed moments. And perhaps what India and the global south are looking at is a watershed moment, especially when it comes to our economic history. Remember, India was anticipating this. This is extremely ironical because if one were to compare this with Donald Trump's previous administration, it was Donald Trump who increased the bilateral trade with New Delhi, but we've seen that slump because perhaps he no longer sees India as a counterbalance to China. He rather sees India as a threat as massive as China. But remember, India has already started diversifying. In July, as latest as July, Shivani, the Niti Aayog has proposed that they will ease Chinese FDI, which means that there will be investment coming into India, and they've marked it very smartly at 24%, which means that if Chinese investment comes into Indian firms, it will remain at 24%. That also abstains these the Chinese investment from gaining majority control of Indian firms, yet will ensure that the money comes in from Beijing into New Delhi. Having said that, there are also lessons that New Delhi can learn at the moment. In April, in fact, to be precise, on 4th of April, MOFCOM and China's customs had imposed controls on its export of rare earth minerals. That's which brought Washington down to its knees, and that's when they came to Stockholm. The negotiations happened. As a result, China has a reprieve of 90 days. What's equally interesting is that what's happening globally as far as these tariffs are concerned is also indicating the policy paralysis within the WTO dispute system. So WTO is the body where you can go for trade disputes and these settlements can happen, and that's not currently really happening. WTO is unable to play its roles. So now that leaves all of these countries and groupings like the BRICS primarily. SCO, as we all know, is a grouping meant more for security concerns, but you can expect that when Prime Minister Modi will be in China, there will be talks, there will be a realignment and joining of hands. In fact, we are already seeing the rhetoric come from China's global state mouthpiece, that is Global Times, which is saying that Western media is in fact attacking India and China, building unhealthy competition which really doesn't exist. Both the economies can aid each other in ensuring that Asia thrives, the world thrives by trading with Beijing and New Delhi.
Thank you, Akansha, for joining us. We'll, of course, keep a very close watch on all of these developments.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval met Russia's Security Council Secretary in Moscow to boost their special and privileged strategic partnership. Discussions centered on deepening bilateral ties, security cooperation and preparations for President Putin's upcoming visit to India. Doval also met President Putin at the Kremlin. Despite global tensions, including US tariffs on India over Russian oil imports, both nations are committed to advancing their time-tested relationship.
You have very rightly mentioned, Excellency, that we have got a very special relationship, a long relationship, and we highly value.
Thank you for staying with us. Bollywood actor Huma Qureshi's cousin Asif Qureshi was murdered in Delhi's Nizamuddin late last night over a parking dispute. The incident occurred around 11 p.m. When an argument broke out over a neighbor's scooter that was blocking his home entry. Asif was allegedly attacked with a sharp object and later succumbed to his injuries in the hospital. His wife has revealed that this wasn't the first altercation between the neighbors and her husband over parking. Delhi police have now arrested 2 individuals. They've recovered the murder weapon as well, but the CCTV, which has now gone viral, has sent shockwaves across Delhi.
We are in Church Lane, Bhogal area of Jangpura in southeast Delhi, where last night a brutal murder took place. 42-year-old Asif Qureshi was stabbed to death outside his house. This is the house where Asif Qureshi reached last night when he found a scooter had been blocking the way to his house. When he asked his neighbors Gautam and Ujjwal to remove that scooter from there, he was attacked by them and stabbed multiple times. The shop that you see here, the shopkeeper and locals also intervened to save Asif Qureshi from the attacks. However, he had by then been stabbed multiple times and he bled profusely, which caused his death. That is the house of his neighbors, both Ujjwal and Gautam, who now stand arrested in police custody. Police are also planning to take their custody from the court and interrogate them further to find out if they had any previous criminal involvements. Suresh ji with us, who was a witness and also intervened trying to pacify the attackers and also save Asif from the attack. Sir, आप इसी एरिया के रेजिडेंट हैं. कल जो पूरा वाकया हुआ,
ये मेरा घर है जी, ये मेरी दुकान है. आसिफ यहाँ खड़ा हुआ था. अच्छा. आसिफ की बीवी यहाँ बैठी हुई थी. मैं और मेरी घरवाली वहाँ बैठ के खाना खा रहे थे. अच्छा. आसिफ से बोला खाना खा ले, क्योंकि प्रेम भाव हमारा इतना था जब मर्जी वो हमारा को रोटी खिलाता तो हम उसे खिलाते थे। जो सब्जी घर के अंदर बनती थी वो आ जाती थी मेरे पास। प्रेम भाव इतना था कि भाई जैसा चारा हो गया था। भाई पड़ोसी हैं, पड़ोसी पड़ोसी के साथ ही देगा, इतना बढ़िया था। बस आसिफ यहाँ खड़ा हुआ था, उसने गाड़ी यहाँ खड़ी कर दी। वो गाड़ी हटाने के पीछे झगड़ा हुआ, उससे बोला भी गाड़ी हटा दे। मेरी बीवी पैर में रोड डली हुई है, हाथ में रोड डली हुई है, एक्सीडेंट हुआ था उसका बहुत तगड़ा। कहते ने रास्ता बंद कर दिया, वो कैसे निकलेगी, रोटी खाने जा रहे हैं हम। इस बात पर झगड़ा हुआ।
आप भी ऊपर थे, आपने पूरा इंसिडेंट वाकया देखा पूरा?
हमने ऊपर से ये देखा कि आसिफ जो है नीचे कह रहा था भाई स्कूटी हटा दो। हम शोर शराबा सुन के छजली पे आए तो आसिफ हाथ जोड़ के जा रहा था, तो वो उज्जवल पर जा रहा था कि मैं अभी आगे बताता हूँ। इतने में गाली गलौच होने लगी ऊपर से नीचे से। वो उसका एक भाई आया नीचे, उसने उसका थप्पड़ मारे, फिर दूसरा भाई आया, दोनों भाई चिपट गए। हमने ऊपर से देखा कि भी इन्होंने छुटाव करा दिया सुरेश जी ने, और 2-3 जने और थे उन्होंने छुटाव करा दिया। 2 सेकंड बाद देखा तो आसिफ नीचे गिर गया। अब ये नहीं पता क्या मारा क्या नहीं, हमें तो फिर बाद में पता चला 2-2:30 बजे की भी उसके सुएँ लगे हुए।
Moving on now, Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin has unveiled the state education policy, positioning it as a clear alternative to the national education policy. A 14-member committee headed by a retired justice had submitted its report. It was constituted back in 2022 to draft this new policy. They submitted its recommendations to the Chief Minister in July last year. The document has now been formally released. This comes amid ongoing tensions between the state government and the centre over the national education policy, which the DMK and the Congress claim imposes Hindi on the southern states.
So our main aim is like we need to reach out the 100% in the gross implementation should be 100% the higher education side. So that is the main aim like we are having. And in terms of assessment also, the assessment is based on the feedback getting from each and everyone. We are going to assess each and every students. There should not be any fear-based examination for the students. So these are the things like we are planning. And another thing is there should not be any rote memorization kind of thing. The students should understand the concept. For that we are giving lot of apps. We are strengthening the high-tech labs in each and every schools, and we are also giving training to each and every teachers. As you are asking, one of the main salient feature is because the SCP, the main key factor and the foundation of the SCP itself, our very respectful teachers. For the teachers, we are giving this Pairchi Parvai kind of training we are going to give. So in that training, we are going to train the teachers based on the current trend, and based on that, we will be running almost more than 500 schools, which is the scheme of the schools is Vetri Palligal.
And also it's a two-language formula. Do you think that will definitely help students?
Definitely, I always used to say Tamil is for our identity and English is for opportunity.
Moving on now, what was supposed to be a happy moment for the Badshah of Bollywood, Shah Rukh Khan is now shaping up to be a full-blown controversy. While some actors have questioned the parameters on which SRK was selected as Best Actor for the National Award, Imtiaz Ali and Mukesh Khanna have now come out in his support. Take a look.
कहते हैं किसी चीज को अगर दिल से चाहो तो पूरी कायनात उसे तुमसे मिलाने की कोशिश में लग जाती है, और जब वो चीज तुम्हें मिल जाती है तो पूरी कायनात कंट्रोवर्सी की आग लगाने में जुट जाती है। ये एक्स्ट्रा लाइन हमने इस डायलॉग में इसलिए ऐड की क्योंकि आजकल ये लाइन शाहरुख खान पे एकदम फिट बैठ रही है। Because what was supposed to be a happy moment for King Khan is now turning into a full-blown controversy. After 33 long years in the industry, Shah Rukh finally bagged the Best Actor National Award on August 1 for his performance in the 2023 blockbuster Jawan. While several Bollywood celebs rushed to laud this achievement of his, SRK himself took to his Instagram account to thank the Indian government and his fans, saying he'll cherish this award for the rest of his life.
Namaskar and Adab. Needless to say, I am overwhelmed with gratitude, pride and humility. To be honoured with the National Award is a moment that I will cherish for a lifetime. Thank you so much to the jury, the chairman and to the INB ministry and to everyone who thought I was worthy of this honour. I want to thank all my directors and writers, especially for the year 2023, So thank you, Raju sir. Thank you, Sid, and especially thanks to Atlee sir and his team for giving me the opportunity in Jawan and trusting me to deliver and be worthy of this award.
However, looks like not everyone is happy with his win. Take Malayalam and Tamil films legend Urvashi for example.
CNN News 18 Primetime Studio, presented by Schneider Electric Smart Home Solutions.
Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. We are joining you live from CNN News 18 Primetime Studio, presented by Schneider Electric Smart Home Solutions. Rahul Gandhi dropped his atom bomb yesterday. His evidence that there is large-scale voter rigging in voter rolls alleged by him to be done at the behest of the Election Commission of India itself to benefit the BJP. Today, he held the Vote Adhikar rally in Bengaluru, reiterating his voter fraud allegations against the poll panel. Now, several people, including the BJP of course, have come out to poke holes in Rahul's theory. While some cases referred to by him have been found to be misleading, others